Welcome to Carmel's Elsa High School coffee morning. We're absolutely delighted to welcome you this morning. I'm particularly delighted and on a high, and I'll tell you a little bit of why in a moment. I'm joined here by my senior team, a lot of whom you will be addressed by in the course of this morning. We're trying to pack a lot into a short time, so we go quite fast. We make things quite neat and short, and the opportunity afterwards is for you to be able to ask questions either formally or informally as you will. Most importantly, I must introduce to you first of all Nitsan Levy, who's here. She's our head of elementary. Many of you, stand up for a minute, Nitsan. Many of you will know her. And I'll introduce my vice principal, Mr. Ford, who's at the back over there, Kyle. And everybody else you will meet because they're going to address you, so I won't take that time away. What do I want to say to you, ladies and gentlemen? I want to say to you two things. That Carmel's Elsa High School is truly unique. And I see things every day that prove that to me. But before I explain that, I would say to you that Carmel's Elsa High School, Carmel School, elementary, preschool, has started this year in a completely different way from last year. Last year was the most difficult year of my career, for reasons I won't go into now, but it was all post-pandemic, and every word was post-COVID, we're facing this, we're facing that, we've got this, we've got that. This year, I would talk about our new world. I don't want to use the expression post-COVID because all the nonsense and all the behavior shifts that caused me personally as a leader huge issues last year. I'm not saying they've gone away. There are changes, there are issues, and I'm sure you all read the papers, you know exactly the challenges Hong Kong, is facing. And they're not going away anytime soon, in my view. I think it's going to take between a year and 3 years for things to, I can't say go back, because we don't want to go back. We want to keep going forward. However, this has been the most glorious start to an academic year. Our new world is being embraced by the faculty I've had the humbling privilege to be able to hire and retain. Faculty of high caliber, which gives me great joy because I've always been privileged to have faculty of very high caliber. Last year I had challenges I've never had before, specifically in the high school. So it's been a glorious week and 2 days. This is the second Monday for the students. The glory of the school play has set everybody on a high. And again, amazing faculty to come back and actually throw themselves into auditions and into actually launching a musical which is going to be for the first time performed in December as opposed to April. So there's a lot going on. Sports you're going to hear about later. We're already off on our meets. So we've really hit the ground running. You're going to hear phenomenal information about the high-level results of the school. And I just want to dwell on that for one moment. You're going to hear from Miss Robin in a moment. But each cohort is different. Because we're small, when I say unique, we have most extraordinary benefits of relationships that are intergrade, of children in grade 12 spending time with grade 6 and 7, informally, and making them aspire. And in that way we are unique. Go to any large school. When I was at school, I never spoke to the grade 12s. They wouldn't look at me when I was in grade 6. That's normal. Here we have proper relationships built between those students, and it makes everybody aspire. I've heard a lot in the last week about the US and about the UK. Tertiary education is in flux. You will hear more from Mr. Ford, but there are challenges there that have never existed before. There are shifts. So the more we can produce, the more we can ensure that our children do this incredible IB, which gives them an edge in grades, it gives them an edge in admissions, and it gives them an edge in ability to enter tertiary education in a completely different way. But that's not what it's about. It's about relationships, it's about the teachers, it's about the Jewish ethos and the inclusivity that underpins our school. And that is buzzing. The children's learning is buzzing. I've felt that all week already, which is quite an extraordinary thing to be able to say. So thank you for the partnership. Thank you for coming today. And I'm delighted to see new parents, and I'm delighted to see parents whose children have been with us many years. And that is, again, the strength of the school. We'll talk again. We're happy to invite you again. There is a drinks, what's it called? Cocktail evening. I think it's on the 12th of September, if I'm not mistaken, at the Jewish Community Centre. You'll hear from our PTA. We have the strongest PTA we've ever had. Again, I'm humbled by you guys and the work that you're doing. So let's all celebrate and let's all carry on creating this unique school. It gives me great pleasure to kick off by asking Miss Robin to come and speak to you about the results and the IB diploma program. Miss Robin.
Good morning, everybody. So I am the diploma program coordinator, which means that it is my role to run the grade 11 and 12 program. So if you're familiar with the IB, you know that we have 3 phases of education. We've got the PYP, which is the primary years, the MYP, which is the middle years, which Mr. Darrell will go over with you in a little bit, and then it ends off grade 11 and 12 as a course that's known as the diploma program, and that is the culmination of the 12 years of education that the students go through from grade 1 to 12, and that is the exam results that do impact their next steps. So just to basically explain how the diploma works here at Elsa is it runs for the whole of grade 11 and 12, and it is a program that is recognized by universities all over the world as a rigorous learning environment with incredibly high requirements and standards. And so if our students get through that diploma, they do well, that is recognized and rewarded with acceptances at universities, which Mr. Ford will also explain in a lot more detail just now. And so that is what we're aiming for our students, is to do well at this incredibly demanding, rigorous course. Which means that we as teachers all go through specialized training, and that we are all exposed to as much of the IB standards and requirements as possible so that we can prepare our students to sit those final exams, because those are externally marked. So at the end of grade 12, we as teachers have to hand over that process and trust that everybody is prepared enough to do well, because our influence at that point stops and it's over to the students. And what's really incredible about the DP is, although it is a rigorous academic course, it is still rooted in the same ideas and beliefs that we follow in the PYP and the MYP. And so you'll see at the core of the diagram is still approaches to learning and approaches to teaching, which, if you're familiar with the IB, you will recognize as something that's a part of the primary and the middle years. That is still at the center of what we're doing. It's still the core of where we want our students to be, is how they are approaching their learning, their responsibility for their own learning. And of course, we as teachers need to match that and to challenge our students. Then you'll see the next circle is it's called the core of the DP program. And this is something that every student who sits the full diploma will be involved in. And so we have a theory of knowledge, extended essay, creativity, activity, service. And those are three elements that all of our students undertake. Theory of knowledge is a philosophy course, which helps them to learn how to question. So we don't provide answers, we don't necessarily steer them in a specific direction, but they learn how to investigate their own knowledge and understanding, where it comes from and how that impacts them as a learner. That also does have an assessment element that is assessed by the IB as part of their exams in grade 12. Then we have the extended essay, which is an academic research paper of 4,000 words with full citations and source lists, which is quite a feat for a 16, 17, 18-year-old student to tackle. And that too is assessed by the IB. And together, the mark for those two factors will then give the students a potential extra 3 points, which makes their IB total out of 45. And so those 3 points are quite highly sought after, because obviously that's the difference sometimes for students to making their requirements for university. And then creativity, activity and service is something that Mr. Baldwin will go into more detail with you. But essentially, that is a component that the grade 12s have to have completed. Otherwise, they do not receive a diploma. It is not marked in a way that there's no A, B, C, D grade given to it, but they have to have proven to the school and to the IB that they have met those requirements in order to get their DP. So that's just the breakdown of where that comes from. And then you'll see the second last ring is the different, faculties, the different categories of subjects. And I'm going to go into that in a little bit more detail now as we look at what that looks like here. So for Carmel, we have a multitude of languages, which can be taken as language A or language B. So every student has to do a language A, what's the word I'm looking for? The combination is up to the students, whether or not they want to take one language A and one language B, or two language A, which is an incredibly difficult task. It's known as the highest diploma that you can get, to have a bilingual diploma. This year we have one student who is tackling that, and we're very proud of him for deciding to go that route. And so for language A, we would offer language A if you could do it as a full literature course, or you can do it as a combination of language and literature. And there we offer English, Chinese, Hebrew, and French. Then group 2, language acquisition, language B. There's two options. You can either continue with the language that you have been doing. So for example, Mandarin, they've been doing the whole way through PYP, MYP, and they will then continue to do it as language B. Or in some cases, students will choose to start a language completely from scratch, which is what we describe as AB Initio, where obviously it's a slightly different course because it's a totally new language. Then we move on to individuals and societies, and we currently offer history, economics, psychology, and environmental systems and societies. Then group 4 is the sciences, so that's physics, chemistry, biology, sport, health, and exercise, design, technology, and then environmental systems and societies can be taken either as a humanities or as a science. Then group 5 is mathematics, and we have 3 different courses that we offer here. Analysis and approaches, higher level and standard level, or applications and interpretation standard level. Then group 6 is the arts, so we have visual arts, theatre, and music. And then, like I explained, we have the core that all of our students need to tackle. So, the higher level and standard level, essentially students choose 3 higher level and 3 standard level. So there's, one is not easier than the other. Higher level simply means there's an extra added element to that subject, usually like a fourth module, an extra project that the students have to do, and they usually will sit an extra exam paper. But the standard level is still taught at that same level. There's just one or two less requirements. And so that is how the IB feels that students should be balancing. You cannot take everything at higher level. There are simply not enough hours in the day, and so students will choose 3 and 3. And then that combination is obviously also in conjunction with consultation with us in terms of where do they want to go? What are they wanting to do with this diploma? What are the requirements from universities and other tertiary institutions? And then what is the best mixture for that student in order to get a good total, which is out of 45, but also do well in the subjects that they are required to have for their specific university courses, which Mr. Ford will also go into more detail. So it gives me great pleasure to let you know that last year's graduates did an exceptional job, and we're incredibly proud of what they managed to achieve. And I think it's really important to caveat that the IB during 2020, 2021 and 22 obviously had to adjust things to cater to students who were learning from home, who might have not had access to decent teaching online, etc. And obviously the IB is a global institution, and so they had to make allowances for students all over the world. And they did adjust their standards. And then this year, it's like the pandemic never happened. So even though our students who were massively affected by the pandemic through the core years of their high school, it was back to business as usual, pre-pandemic standards and requirements, even though these students were so affected, especially here in Hong Kong, where they had 3 solid years of sort of online learning. And so we really are incredibly proud of them. I think these results speak to their rising above and meeting that challenge. So just a very brief breakdown. We had a 37.3 out of 45 average, which for the first time is higher than the Hong Kong average by almost a full point. And so they really came out on tops with that. 100% pass rate. More than 66% of our students received 35 and above points, and 33% of them received a 40 out of 45, which is considered exceptional grading. To get anything above a 38 is wow for the IB, so we're very proud of them with that. And then I'm particularly proud of our core students with their extended essay and their TOK. They really did incredibly well. So that's just the breakdown. We had a highest score of 42 out of 45. The grade boundaries, which is what determines whether something is a 5 or a 6 or a 7, those were in line with what we were expecting from the IB. The core points were incredibly high this year, way over the global average, which really speaks to the wonderful thing about Elsa, which is that we have so much one-on-one time with our students. And so students sitting the extended essay and theory of knowledge, I am able to sit with each student and go through all of their work and their understanding in a way where a class with 100 students, a teacher simply couldn't do that. And so I think that is one of the highlights here, and we're very proud of them. So they had an average of 2.44 out of 3 added to their diplomas for the core. And that is it from me, and I'd like to introduce our Vice Principal, Mr. Kyle Pratt.
Good morning. I'd like to take a moment actually and just sit back on this slide for 1 second. Look at the diversity, the range of courses that are offered and that our students choose to take here at Carmel. One of the key things about the education that we provide is that it's student-centered, a bespoke education where we tailor-make the curriculum choices for those children based on their desires, their needs, their outcomes. This was a graduating class of almost around 10 students, and these are the courses that they're choosing to take. It's very diverse. We are not a rote memorization school where we're just focusing on you scoring the best possible score that you can. In fact, we're more interested in developing the whole student, the global citizen, someone who is prepared for a world that doesn't exist yet, for jobs that don't exist yet, who know how to take their experiences, their learning, and continue to grow and develop and learn. In the 21st century, the most important skill sets that people are looking for is adaptability, flexibility, creative thinking skills, critical thinking skills, analytical skills, and that's what we cultivate and hone here at Elsa. And I will show what I'm most proud of is maybe the next step, and probably the reason why you're all here is not, will my child get a 45 out of 45, but where will they go from here? And that's what we try to develop here. We set a system in place where students can become the best version of themselves and make it to the next step where they want to go. Now with that, I will put in a caveat. We are focused on finding the best fit institution for your child, not the best institution for your child, okay? And it's important that we don't set them up for failure, but we set them up for success, helping them understand themselves, helping you understand your child's choices and their desires, and helping them maybe also negotiate your desires for them, right? So it's important that we start this process very early, starting to become self-aware of what our choices are for our future, or what your choices might be for your child's future. With that, it's a highly competitive market now in universities across the world. It is not like when we went to school. It is nothing like that, in fact, and we have to prepare ourselves for that. And so we recommend and guide students to develop an idea of who they are as a student, cultivate a brand for themselves, so that when they apply to that university knows the exact type of student that they're looking for, and they pull those students in. So, with that, I have the pleasure of announcing the acceptances and matriculations that we've had just this last year. This is just last year. I'll show you the entire course of our years here at Elsa. But if you take a look at the diversity of where students are going across the world, what types of degrees they're studying, diverse from humanities to science to math to arts, okay? We're not focusing on, we're an engineering school, or we're a math school, or we're a science school. We cultivate a student to become exactly the type that they're interested in. So I'll just point out a few excellent ones. Columbia University, this dual degree program, one of our students is going for an international relations type degree. University of Toronto on scholarship, NYU Steinhardt, which is the arts and sciences colleges, LaSalle in Singapore, University of Miami, Warwick, PPE. I didn't bold this Nottingham, that was a mistake, but we have some going to Nottingham next year for medicine. So we have across the board some very fantastic results from just last year. These are our results across the board for the years that we've had here at Elsa. So the red is matriculation. Matriculation is where the student chooses to actually go. And then the rest is just acceptances. And you can see that they're given so much choice. And that is a fantastic thing. We want your child to come out of this school with choice, so that they can make that choice and enroll in the school that they want to go to. You see Oxbridge up there, you see Cambridge up there, you see Oxford, St. Andrews, you see UCL, you see all of the schools at NYU. In fact, Steinhardt should be up there as well. We have Columbia University, we have Technion in Israel. Some really top universities across the world. I'm sure there's ones up there that I haven't mentioned that should also be considered as fantastic. But we also have schools that are non-traditional pathways. Pathways that sometimes your child might not be the right choice to go straight into university. In fact, it often isn't the right choice to go straight into university, because maybe they're not ready for that path, or perhaps maybe that's not the right path. You might have a child who pushes themselves and can achieve the scores of 40 plus that are necessary to be considered even by Ivy League school. But if you push them too hard, they might get into that Ivy League school and then they might flounder. Then they might fail. Then they might drop out, or they might maybe achieve just below the mark that they thought they should achieve at and not feel successful in their lives and not go to that next stage. Oftentimes I find a child should choose a school that they will excel in and use that as a springboard into those better degrees, because now the bachelor's degree is just another high school degree. They need to be considering going on to a master's, on to a doctorate. The advanced degrees are what they're looking for in the professional field. So think about that progression. And that's what we try to cultivate within the student, is practical, real expectations, attainable goals, and the right fit. So we start early. We follow a timeline. Starting early means grade 9 for us, although we do have parents come to me in grade 6, grade 7, and grade 8 to start considering what should we do. I would say at first what you need to do in grade 9 is to cultivate your passions for your child. Whatever they find that they might be interested in, whatever they express to you as something that, oh, I kind of love this, or they're excelling in, cultivate that. Promote that in their lives. Give them extra experiences where they can engage and talk to us about it as an open line of communication, and we will help cultivate those experiences for your child as well. It's a three-way system within the college application experience. It's us here at the school helping to build your child into the best that they possibly can be. It's the child's choices and their desires and their goals that they have, and then it's you as parents supporting that, supporting those goals, supporting those successes in their lives. This is where, if you're applying to the United States, your transcript begins, so it is important they start to focus academically. We move on to grade 10. This is where we find a child should really start to hone in on the experiences that they find most important, that you have helped them identify as their passions in some way. And this is where the MYP offers a fantastic opportunity to cultivate this through the personal project. And this establishes what we call a through thread. Something that your child should start developing, a passion that they're very interested in, that they take further, that they develop beyond academics, outside of the classroom, and it becomes, to a certain extent, maybe their brand as a student when they apply for university. It's kind of hard to think of your child as a product, right? But they do need to sell themselves to these universities, and they need to know what type of product those universities are looking for if they want to achieve or get into their top university choices. And then in grade 11, focus on grades. Academic development, number one thing, okay? Your grade 11 year is the most important year in your high school experience. It's not grade 12, okay? This is where scores matter the most. This is where the predicted grades for the IB are developed. And this is where students should be establishing these connections with the universities they want to go to, showing a genuine connection and desire and a commitment to that school, because these schools are not just looking for someone who shows up the last minute grade 12 and submits an application. Yeah, sure, they might have 1530 on their SATs. They might have a fantastic essay that they've written, and they might get a 44 predicted on their IB, but they won't get accepted if they haven't established that connection, okay? So that is important. It is a different game altogether. And then finally, in grade 12, we really focus on refinement. Refining those scores, getting those predicted grades up to where they need to be if they aren't there already, taking that SAT one last time if they need to, okay? Or, for some students, deciding what's the next path for myself. Some students might decide that it needs to be a gap year. And from that gap year, they springboard. I would always encourage students to make use of that gap year, not just travel the world. As much as that does add value and develop their character, there should be something else in there, taking on an internship, taking on another course somewhere that helps to further their academics. Because when they then step back into the academic world, it can be a challenge. So it's important that they continue this rigorous engagement with growth and personal development. One thing that I will say is that our students have, I would say, the privilege to go anywhere in the world. And they do apply anywhere in the world, in fact, everywhere in the world. Everywhere except for South America yet. We haven't had students really excited about South America, but we have had them apply pretty much everywhere. So we help those students navigate that system, any system that they choose, with step-by-step process, constantly engaging and offering seminars and tutorials. And I personally will meet with your students starting from day one in grade 11 all the way until their grade 12 year to help guide them through their application portals that they're choosing, through the schools that they want to attend, and further. So that's necessarily the role of college applications and process here at Elsa. We have some fantastic results from some very small cohorts. I would like to point out that our school, in comparison to the other large schools in Hong Kong, one graduating class from a large school in Hong Kong will still be larger than all of the graduates that we've had throughout the years in our school, okay? If you put that into context, what we're getting out of our students is absolutely phenomenal. So stay with us, make sure that you are an engaged parent who's also paying attention to your child's needs, their desires, and where they end up, and I guarantee that they will find the best fit for them in the future. All right, and now I'll pass it on to Ms. Fu. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. We are very privileged to have the benefit of your wisdom, your commitment, and the amount of time you spent with each individual student. A lot more that can be said, but as you can see, it's about a partnership. And the strongest and most important partnership is between you and us. So it gives me great pleasure to invite Rochelle Saban to represent the PTA this morning. She is the PTA rep on the board. There are two. There is also Anna Berman, and Rochelle is going to tell you the most important things. Rochelle.
Thank you all. So first, I'm not used to that, so be nice with me. So as you can hear, I'm French. And then I heard you thinking, why the school think of French to be in the PTA? Yeah, also I was surprised. But after 13 years being here with my husband, we got 4 kids. They've been in Carmel since they are walking. So after so many years, I kind of start being less snobbish and try more to show more gratitude to school. That's exactly what happened actually. I was younger age, I was like, it's not for me, this kind of meetings. And then with the years going by, and especially the past few years, were very, very hard for all of us, struggling with the COVID, with the unexpectancies. The school has been, I have to say personally, it's been amazing. I really feel we got the support as parents, but also the kids. The school make sure that they were on top of everything, so they will not lose years because of what was happening all around the world. So that might be at that time that I start to think, okay, people need to get more involved, show more gratitude. So I'm a parent as well, so I have high expectations for my kids, high standards, but I also want them to feel like to have like some kind of well-being, which is very important. It might not have been for our generation, but these years are very important. Like, we want our kids to be good at school, but we want them also to be good in their mind, and that's both very important things. And I really think the faculty in Carmel, I'm going to talk about whole Carmel, but especially also in Elsa, they're caring about our kids, they're listening to them, they have open doors, and the same for parents as well. I always feel like through the PTA or through directly school, we have an open door, we can express our concern, and because of the scale of the school, we have usually someone answering to us. So I start to be more involved last year, and I've noticed that last year, as you said, it was a lot of challenges, but it was also a back to normality for our kids. They're responding to that. We can see that they are more involved in like the musical. Last year was amazing, all the good vibe. This year, I think kids are already involved too. As parents, we were like super excited as well. And I felt the same when I came for the first time to the graduation last year. We could feel the gratitude in kids. We could feel they're really bonded with the faculty and Miss Friedman, which I never had in my experience, never bond with my principal. I do also think that last year was very productive for parents' involvement as well. We had in Elsa the great chance to have a tremendous success with the career fair, which was led by Sean, now Vilsar, who is also taking care of it, thank you, this year. and he managed to bring a lot of parents, so parents who took from their time to come and speak with students, which also I felt super, super impressive. Keep in mind that my older son is in grade 7, so I'm still young on that, but I slowly understand that everything needs to be prepared, so that's why I think that all parents should start also to get involved, and it's good for us to know where we're going, but it's also good for our kids. I want to also say a word to new parents, but especially grade 6 parents who must have a lot today here. One good friend with older kids, who's here today actually, told me that the best advice is that we need to let them fly. So we need to be there for them, we need to listen to them. That's why we give popcorn during events, that's why we involve in musical, that's why we come to all these kind of events. But we also need to let them make their mistake, give them some independence, because we won't be able to hold their hands all their life. And like me, I have 4 kids, so I can't do it for all of them. So it was a great advice. Thank you. So I hope that if you need anything, you will feel like you feel connected with PTA or parents. I want to thank also all the class moms, a lot of class parents, a lot are here today, for setting up the WhatsApp group so early. So I know that WhatsApp group, it's about announcement from school, but PTA is not just about that. It's also being there, being involved, giving suggestions to people, but wanting to be part of a change, working on mental health event. We tried last year, it was a good success. I really hope that this year we will have more people involved, because that's, I think, the best way that we can help our kids. And to finish, announcement, we have the Welcome Back breakfast in JCC. There will be also a uniform sale second-hand if anyone is not up to date with that. So please come. It's a good opportunity to talk, to ask questions. And if you can't, because not a good timing, we also do the evening drinks with teacher and parents only for Elsa, which I found it a very, very good idea, because it gives you a good opportunity to casually stalk your teacher. But please come, join, and feel free to WhatsApp or email us. We have an email address. It's been communicated. We will do it again, but feel free to use it. Think of the PTA before thinking of reaching the school. If we can help first, it will also help the faculty focusing on your kids and less on you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rochelle. Thank you for yours and the PTA's commitment, which is absolutely extraordinary. You go above and beyond. And please, if you have an issue, please do bring it to the PTA. We're going to move over to the second part of this morning's presentation. Please take a moment to help yourself to refreshments. As I just introduced the second half, please get up and get what you need. Feel free. We talked about a lot of things, and we're going to talk about a lot more. But the crux of what we're going to go on to now is actually communication, which Rochelle has mentioned and we've mentioned before. Communication in terms of your child. We're going to be looking at your child's well-being, the link between well-being, obviously, and academics. So you're going to hear that you've heard about the 11 and 12 program. You're now going to hear from Mr. Darrell, our NYP coordinator, about the grade 6 to 10 program. And then you're going to hear about systems from our marketing manager, from our head of design. You're going to hear about the actual systems, which can be challenging to buy into. But before that, we're going to hear from Ms. Eliav, who is our pastoral care director, and you're going to understand the importance we at this school put on pastoral care and how it is the core of communication, three-way between your child and us and you. Ms. Eliav.
morning, nice to meet you. My name is Avital. I am married to Achia. He is a Jewish studies teacher in this school. I am a mom of 3, all of them in Carmel. We arrived to Hong Kong 4 years ago from Israel, and this is our 5th year in Hong Kong. I have degrees in biology and chemistry, and I used to teach 7 years in a boarding school in Israel, and here I'm teaching Hebrew for DP and for MYP as well. I'm going to speak today about our pastoral care team, or how it works in our school. So we have subject teachers. Subject teachers, it's basically their lessons. They have math, English, arts, etc. If the students has any issue or problem in their lessons, the subject teachers are aware and can help them anytime in their lessons. We have also for each class 3 homeroom teachers or form room teachers, at least 1 man and at least 1 woman in this team. They meet their form room teachers every day, but Monday they have also PSHE, that is a lesson with their form room teacher, and they know that they can go to ask them or just to talk to them anytime. The idea of form room teachers is to see the whole picture regarding the student. So if there is any issue that is in every lesson, the form room teachers will be aware and will take this situation sometimes to me, or try to solve these problems or issue by themselves. We have also the pastoral care team, that it's me and Miss Humphreys that will speak in a minute, and we have 2 psychologists in our school. And usually when we have any behavioral issue, if the subject teachers think, or according to the handbook, is something that's supposed to arrive to me, we will try to think how to solve it together as a team. I want to speak today also about the policies of the school. We told the kids at the beginning of this year about our policy, and especially about phone policy. We had a conversation last year with student representative, and we asked them basically what they think about phones in school. And they asked us to help them to be less in their phones. They realized by themselves that if they are less in their phones, they have more friends, and they want us to help them. So I want to ask you, parents, to help us too. If their kids are calling you during the day, you can tell them. You have amazing teachers in your school, and they can help you. And we want you to solve problems by yourself. So please help us to help them. Tell them. We will speak about that at home. But if you have any issue, you can go to your teachers or to your friends and try solve problems by yourself. My door is always open for you. Not only my door, but also all the teachers in our school. You can email them for any issue. They will be more than happy to help you. I want to encourage you to tell your kids to try to come to us, but if it's something that you think that we need to know, please let us know, and we will do our best to help them. That's it for me.
Thank you. I never heard that said about my children's school, or even my last school. That open door that Avital has really does cover everything. But most importantly, Avital is absolutely committed, as we all are, to developing resilience in your child. So the phone policy change was based on that, and the need for us to pull back now from the last 4 years, and your child learning from a laptop in bed, munching biscuits in pyjamas, to actually having some pride and self-respect. And last year we didn't do that at all. We did a soft resumption because I realized that it was impossible to do anything else. But this year we are already, as I hope your children have told you, demanding anybody who's wearing white trainers, they'll be sent home. Anybody who doesn't come with a blazer cannot come into assembly. So we're pulling back a little bit more rigidly on expectations. So what you've heard from Avital and what you're going to hear from Kirsten now is the flip side of that. We need you to support us in our expectations so that your child doesn't, or you don't write and say, oh, I've ordered the shoes, they'll be here in a week, so my child's going to come in white trainers. No, sorry, that's not acceptable this year. Or, can my child go for a dentist appointment at 11:30 and not come back at all? No, please make it at a different time. Or, my child had to phone me because he had to tell me that he's got a lesson at 4:33 and he's only leaving school at 4:23. No, the child has to become self-reliant. We are in a very, very, very fragile moment now in this world. And the more I see of what's going on in every single country in the world, the more scared I am for my grandchildren and their future, and the more impressed I am about how my grandchildren negotiate their world here in Hong Kong, more than the way they're negotiating it in London. The Israel ones and the Hong Kong ones are building core. The London ones are struggling more. So I really am very, very adamant on this. No phones during the day. Don't phone mummy to say that you cried 5 minutes ago, or you fell over, or you have a problem. As Miss Eliav said, solve it with a teacher. Now that's one side of the support we provide. The other side, critically important, you're going to hear about now from Miss Humphreys.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to see some familiar faces and also some new faces. So I am Kirsten Humphreys. I'm the Learning Enhancement and Wellbeing Coordinator at Elsa. So basically what that means is I work with Mrs. Friedman, Ms. Eliav, as part of the pastoral care team. And we are really here as a support for the students and to kind of build them up and also add on to what they are doing in the classroom. So when it comes to well-being, we have a number of systems that we have in place. So the first one is something called PSHE, which Ms. Eliav mentioned. So this stands for Personal, Social, Health, and Economic Education. Some of your children may have mentioned this to you already. So this is what they do on a Monday morning, period 1. In this lesson, we cover topics like social media, digital literacy, bullying, mental health, relationships. So in this lesson, they really learn some theory, how to navigate these areas, and they also are directed to areas of support. Then we also have CPOMs. So this is a system that we use as faculty to monitor the students. So basically, if there's an issue of well-being or safeguarding that teachers are noticing, they can use the system to let us know, and it helps us to develop a picture and understand if there's something that we need to intervene or something that we need to let you know about. And then lastly, we have our counseling department. So we have Julia, who's here on a Monday. She is a creative arts therapist. So she will help students to express themselves, to manage what they're going through in a very creative way through art, through dance, through music, and anything that the student is able to express themselves. Then we have Janet, who is here on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. She is more of a traditional talk therapist approach. And they're both here to support the students. Students can make their own appointment. They're welcome to email the counselors at any time, and they will make an appointment for them. Then another part of my role is the learning enhancement. So basically, learning enhancement is all about support and providing a space for students where they can talk through anything that's bothering them, whether that's stress, whether that's working on their academics, their organization skills. I'll be there to help and support them with that. So I do that through individual sessions. So this can be either, for example, a break time session, or students may not be doing certain subjects, so they will come and meet with me in that time, and we will look at specific skills that they can work on and build. And then I also work with the MYP coordinator, Mr. Darrell, who I'm sure you'll hear from in a minute, to ensure that we are differentiating for our students. So what that means is understanding the quote we have on the left, which is that every student can learn, just not on the same day or in the same way. So we understand that all of our students are different, that different learning approaches might work better for them. And that is taken into account in the classroom, where they can, for example, we'll give the option to, instead of just writing, to do a video, to do a poem, to express their knowledge in different ways, so that we're not limiting them to just one way of learning. And then lastly, I also work with the DP coordinator and the MYP coordinator for when it comes to testing and examinations. So basically, we understand that testing, where we have sit-down examinations where they have to do 2 hours and write, that might not be the best system for everyone, but it is the system that we have in education at the moment. So we will work with the IB to ensure that if a student qualifies, they are given certain access arrangements. So for example, extra time or computer use. So this is something that if you have any questions about, you're welcome to let me know. You can email me and we can talk about what that process is. It is important to note that we have to follow very strictly what the IB allows us to do. So it is something that we need to build up as a process. So if you have any questions, do let me know. That's all from me.
Thank you, Ms. Humphries. I just want to give 2 clarifications before Adam speaks to you. One is, if your child has got any sort of report, then please do share it with us in its full form, because we can only support with information. If we don't have the information, and then we stumble on things and we hear things and we observe things, it's going to slow down that support process. So please do keep us informed, and please do understand that there are IB diploma regulations that we have to abide by. There are SAT regulations that we have to abide by. So when we have to make certain applications, then as Ms. Humphries said, we need information from you. It's going to be much better if you give us a report and we work together to support your child. The other thing I want to clarify is that I've asked you to bring in a homeschool agreement, saying that you've been through the booklet that your child has, that you have the parent file, the student file, and that you have signed off on all the various things. You'll hear about one of the sign-offs from Al later on about permission, but I want to give you another one, and I want to clarify very, very clearly. Ms. Humphries mentioned our counsellors. Now, we've got an incredibly strong team. We've got, first of all, Ms. Eliav, you saw the strength that she showed and how she is on top of everyone. She's leading that four-tutor team who are building relationships with individual children. Then you've got Ms. Humphries, who steps in specific areas with specific needs, and our PSHE program, which underpins and supports all that. Then you have our counsellors, 2 very different counsellors providing absolutely critical service. However, on that form, I ask you to sign off that you give your permission for your child to see the counsellor. But I don't tell you when your child is seeing a counsellor. This is peculiarly, specifically a high school student privilege. All students need a safe space outside the home. That's school. In the old days, we used to talk to our friends. We never talked to our teachers in the very old days. Nowadays, children have needs that are different. The world is different. They need that safe space. It may be a friend. Very often in this school, it's a teacher. But there are also students, some of whom are going through excessive trauma, who need to see a counsellor and possibly will be referred by us to the parent for more needs, more care outside. That's different. But when it's low level, they sometimes need to not tell mum and dad and need to be able to have that privacy of being able to go and see somebody. What's the glory of a counsellor? They don't know you. They don't know the child. They're not connected to the teachers. It is completely confidential. However, they have a duty of care and they have to inform me if they have any cause for concern. So it is a safe space for your child, but it doesn't stay a safe space if you phone up and say, I want to speak to the counsellor because I want to know what the child says to the counsellor. That completely destroys it. Have faith in us. We know what we're doing. We will alert you if, chas v'shalom, God forbid, there's any reason to be alerted. And we do. Ms. Humphries will tell you all the time. But we must give that safe space to your child. They're growing teenagers in this alternate world, and they have to have that space if they want it. Many will use friends, teachers, or you, as we said. Some even come to me. But they certainly go to Miss Eliav, they certainly go to Miss Humphries. But you have to give them that empowerment. Okay, handing over now to the academic side of all that and how that fits in, Mr. Darrell.
Okay, good morning everybody. Like Miss Eliav and Miss Humphries, I've also been at Carmel. It's my 5th year teaching here. What's quite amazing about that is that the students that I'm now guiding through the personal project in grade 10 are actually the first students that I was teaching when I arrived here. So they would have been grade 6. And what's been amazing for me, having come from the UK system, from GCSEs, Key Stage 3, is how the MYP approach to teaching, to learning, really gives students the feeling that they're on a journey, that they're going somewhere, and that their learning is connected to the real world. And I mean, the IB does that in a number of ways, from the PYP through the MYP and the diploma. But ultimately, their goal is to develop these inquiring, these knowledgeable and caring young people. And I think we do a really good job of that here. So similar to the diploma that Ms. Robin showed you a little bit earlier, we've got these kind of rings with the IB Middle Years program. At the core of that is the IB Learner Profile. These are the different traits that we hope our students develop along their learning journey, from being caring, communicators, knowledgeable, inquirers. Outside of that, our learning, the approaches to our teaching, the approaches to student learning, following a conceptual method of teaching and learning, and framing all of the learning as well in global contexts, so that students can kind of apply what they learn to what they see in the real world. In assessment, that might look like taking on the role of a director in English or theatre, taking the role of a researcher, measuring soil quality or water quality. So they're really framing their learning with global context. Outside of that, we have our subject areas from the sciences, mathematics, and the arts. And around that, again, we have international mindedness. So as I said, like the MYP is a framework, not a curriculum. As a teacher, that's quite freeing. We're not beholden to a set of texts every year. I often change the various texts that I teach in English, and I enjoy teaching variety. Students enjoy learning with variety. So it's a framework, not a curriculum. We are focused on concepts, which allows students to transfer their knowledge, their learning, to other contexts. We are still assessment driven. We're still giving students scores in each criteria so that they can track their progress. Okay, so you've probably heard a lot about the learner profile, international mindedness, probably from your students. Again, we encourage our students to reflect back on this. Each and every time we're off to do an activity, when they're coming back from the summer, we had a wonderful assembly last week where students were sharing what they did during their summer holidays. and connecting it to how they developed as an inquirer, as somebody that was open-minded to new experience, somebody that was principled. So it's really nice to see students catching on to this as well. So inside our classroom, we've got a range of different subjects, from languages, French, Hebrew, and Mandarin here at Elsa. English A is our sort of subject of medium of instruction. So we teach in English, math, art, music, PHE, science, drama, and design. We also have individuals and societies. Alongside that, as well as our main core individuals and societies subject, we have Jewish studies for the Jewish stream students, or international studies for the international students. So what are these approaches to teaching? What does it look like in the classroom? Obviously all of our teaching, the way we interact with students, it's informed by formative and summative assessment. I'll talk to you a little bit about the difference between the two, because you'll hear that a lot from your children. This is a summative, it's really important. Oh, it's okay, it's just a formative, this kind of thing in their homework. But essentially it's based on inquiry. So every unit that we teach in the MYP is based on a statement of inquiry, where students are going to go on to explore those ideas by linking their learning to the bigger concepts. An example of this might be the very first unit in grade 6 English, where they are studying about identities and relationships. I've used a number of different texts throughout the years for this unit, from Wonder through to The Little Prince, and now I know that Ms. Pearson is giving students a choice of 6 different books for them to explore the concepts of identities and relationships and how this is explored in literature. So that's a really kind of good indication, a clear indication of kind of what the MYP stands for and what it's all about. From that, we also, as I've said, develop these ideas in local and global contexts, whether the young scientists might be at Sheko measuring water quality, or at Kadori Farm looking at soil health. Our students also work together. We've heard before, students work together across the different year groups and within their year groups as well. And as Ms. Humphreys talked to you, differentiation is something that we think carefully about in every single lesson, in every single class. Okay, but what we're really trying to do here in the MYP, in the IB, from the PYP, from primary years all the way to the diploma, is to foster independence, students taking ownership of their learning. And one way that we do this is to foster these skills in approaches to learning. And this is how students approach their learning. Okay? There are 5 categories in approaches to learning, and we will have our first parent-teacher conferences based on markers of achievement that we give to students based on their approaches to learning. This is probably the most important thing at the beginning of the year, and the way that we track how students learn, how they approach their learning. So these 5 different areas: social skills, research skills, self-management, communication, and thinking skills. Not all of these skills are specific to a subject. These are sort of interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary, and they prepare students for lifelong learning. So this is what assessment might look like. Previous years we've had the hall for exams in June. We also use the auditorium for timed assessments, timed summatives in December, which will just focus on a single unit of study. Outside of exams and timed assessments, you'll hear a lot about formative assessment, which can be anything from questioning students in the classroom, a quiz at the end of a unit of study. It might be graded, it might not be graded. Okay, but certainly there will be feedback, whether it's students talking to one another or teacher giving verbal feedback in the classroom. Then we come on to summative assessments, which generally form our idea of where students are at in their learning. The summative assessments are graded and will be part of student reports. You will, and students also will, be told at least 2 weeks in advance if a summative assessment is coming up. Usually in English, we'll have 2 weeks to complete the summative assessment. So it will be a kind of project-based assessment. As I said, that might look like a presentation, it might be a speech that they're writing, it might be a series of book reports or book talks. I've had students take on the role of director of Mice and Men and write a letter to an actor playing a character. How would they like that character to be played using evidence from the text? So we try and create authentic assessments that students can kind of feel like they're applying it to real-world experiences and real-world contexts. So when you hear the difference between formative and summative, the summatives are graded. I'm sure your students, your children will let you know. And so how are they graded? Quite similar to DP, in that the final grade scale is 1 to 7. But within each criteria, it's a grade from 1 to 8. So, in English, I've given some examples here. We have 4 criteria: analyzing, organizing, producing text, and using language. Okay, so at the end of a school year, we will have assessed twice each criteria, at least twice for each criteria. And let's say the end of a year, this is what the student's grade might look like. They're scoring a 6 in analysing, a 5 in organising, producing text and using language at 7. An overall achievement grade there will be generally done on the teacher's best judgment. Okay? Teachers know your students really, really well here. They're able to give a kind of best fit. It might not be the average of those scores, but it will certainly be a best fit based on not only the summative assessments throughout the year, but where they know your student, your child is at in other areas as well. Organising ideas, for example, I've told my grade 6s, my grade 7s and 8s this year that they better keep their notebooks tidy, organised, that they need to follow a certain pattern of doing things, and that this will contribute to their overall grade at the end of the year. How well you stay organised, how well you present your work. So it won't just be made up of summatives, but I will be informed from their other areas of work as well. Okay, this is the culmination of all of this. Mr. Ford touched on it in terms of building a brand, building an identity, and also kind of finishing your MYP journey. This is the culmination of all of that. Okay? Students will select a project based on personal interests. It centers around the approaches to learning that they've been working on all the way through the MYP. And the final outcome is a product of their choice. It's a reflection report as well of that process. Okay? Students have always been so proud at the end of grade 10 to exhibit their personal project. We generally have a personal project exhibition around March or April each year, where students will be able to share their work, share their ideas with others. It's internally assessed, which means generally 2 to 3 teachers will be marking each student's personal project, just to ensure a balanced grade. It is externally moderated, so we'll send a couple of samples to the IB, and they'll send them back with their own grades as well. So that's the kind of culmination of the MYP. It's also preparing them for a number of different things as they move on. So the MYP prepares students for a number of things. Mostly, of course, we would like, and ideally students would go into studying for the diploma. This is for a number of reasons. The same kind of approaches to learning that we foster in the MYP is preparing students for lifelong learning in the diploma, at university, in their professional lives. The diverse subject choices that we have at MYP make sure that students are able to make informed choices for their diploma. The methods of assessment that we use also allow students to become comfortable in diploma, whether that's giving a presentation for one of their IAs, a research project, and even their extended essay, which of course the grade 10 personal project and report lends itself really, really well to. Finally, outside of the classroom, Mr. Baldwin is just going to tell you a little bit about how the MYP works outside of our subject areas. But essentially that's preparing students for their CAS project, which is again is a key component of the diploma. So again, lifelong learning is really the thing that we want our students to come away from our school with, as well as a very good diploma and access to universities of their choice. What we really want is students to develop their own powers of the mind, to be able to apply their learning to new situations, new presentations of facts, as and when they arise. Okay, I'll pass you on to Mr. Baldwin.
Just before, I
Yeah.
add one thing. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Darrow. I just wanted to make two clarifications. We don't have an alternative curriculum at Elsa. So if a student reaches the end of grade 10 and is clearly not cut out for the full IB, and we have a few, not many over the years, but a few, then we offer them something else. We are a WASC accredited school, Western Association for Schools and Colleges, and we are empowered by WASC and by the IB to do a different curriculum, and that would be not the 6 subjects you saw before, but 4 subjects. One has to be English, one has to be maths, one is a language, and one elective. So 4 instead of 6. No extended essay, no theory of knowledge, but of course they have to do CAS. And if they fulfill and complete those requirements, they graduate from the school with their peers, with a full graduation, and with a certificate of graduation from Carmel School, authorised by WASC. So that's an alternative route to university. They may have to do a foundation year, but they can get places at universities as well. So that's something to bear in mind. The other thing I wanted to expand just on a little bit before Mr. Baldwin talks to you is the reporting process, which is another unique aspect of our school. Our reporting process, as some of you may be aware, is already is happening now. And how does it work? It works that your child will receive a full report, a summative report that Mr. Darrell alluded to before, at the end of the academic year, and that's called the final report, with the grades as he showed you here. There's also an effort grade out of 5 in each subject area. When we come back to school now in August, the senior team, a senior teacher, will meet with you, the parents, and your child to review that report, the one that went out in June, and to set targets for your child, or for your child to set their own targets for the first semester, the first term until December. Those meetings are well underway. I think we're all about 50% done, if not more. And that will be, of course, from grade 7 right through to 12. Everybody has their moment. And that is hugely, hugely beneficial. We've switched on to doing it online with parents, but face-to-face with the child, and that works really well. That's the best combination. So that's the first. Then there is an interim report, and there are 2 of those in the year, and that is a colour-coded approaches to learning report. That does not tell you how well your child is doing in terms of grades or marks. It will tell you how well your child is doing in their approach to learning. So the approaches to learning that Mr. Darrell showed you, those are the ones that we report on, and it hits the child in the face because we use colours. So if it's consistent, which it shouldn't really be until grade 10, 11, 12, it would all be blue. All those squares would be blue. But we've got yellow, we've got red, which we don't want to see, yellow sometimes, occasionally, green usually, often, regularly, and then blue always. And it gives the child a wake-up call, okay? And that is sent out just before the parent-teacher consultation evening, where in October, November, everybody will be in this room. You will come with your child on one of 2 evenings, early evenings, and you will be able to see for 5 minutes each teacher. And the teacher, you will notice at that meeting, talks to your child, not to you. But you come along with the report, so you can see straight away the teacher can refer to the report. In December is the first summative report, like the final one in June. In March, we have a slightly different model. We have a second ATL report, another one, and that should be significantly better with more better colours. And then we don't have a full meeting in here. Staff meet at your request, their request, or a student request, so it's optional, in their rooms. So it's a longer, more confidential meeting if there is cause for concern, cause for celebration, or a topic to be discussed. And that's it. That's a reporting system, but very much proactive reporting system. Okay, it all comes together with the joy of celebration in CCA, and you're going to hear about that from Mr. Baldwin. Mr. Baldwin.
So, good morning. My name is Andrew Baldwin. I'm the Director of Experiential Learning. I get to talk about the fun stuff, the exciting stuff. I came here last year. I came during the middle of the year, and I was just literally blown away. I was blown away by not just the academic ability of our students, which is really high across the board, but also the many, many things that they're actually doing as well. We've spoken about threads in a couple of presentations beforehand. And the opportunities that we're giving our students, these are the starts of their threads, which then they can lead on into areas that interest them as they go through the school. So, it says NYP and DP outside the classroom, but actually one of the first threads that they have happens inside the classroom. Their services action starts with their subjects. They are introduced to topics. They experience agencies and other issues across the world which can lead to a passion within them. And that's what we want to see to start with, is what's igniting them. And through our subjects, we can then foster that curiosity as such. We also have our co-curricular activities, which is where I suppose the action really happens. It's not just the doing, it's not just sports, there's also skills involved. And we try to give as much variety to our CCAs as possible. There are schools that have bigger facilities. There are schools that can give more time. But actually what's happening here is amazing in terms of our resources of both time, facility, and the students themselves. And one of the biggest things, and this probably was the biggest takeaway I had last year, were the educational visits. And again, stepping in halfway through the year, in a time when other schools were not even considering to do an education visit because they neither had the scope nor capacity, this school decided to do not just one, but to have the whole of the secondary school from grade 6 to grade, I think it included 11s at the time as well. Everyone went out. And it was monumental, the amount of organisation and the amount of buy-in from the students, because they wanted it to, either to start or continue again. One of those threads. And it continues again this year as well. So, NYP, CCAs, SAA, DP, CAS, it just needs to be meaningful. There's no point in doing something for the sake of having it done to tick a box. It builds, as Mr. Ford was saying earlier, nothing for their brand. It's nothing that they can talk about later on. It's not giving anything back to them. So what we're trying to build is meaningful experiences. Holistic approach to learning. Another aspect of what we're trying to build is not, again, the academics, but the character itself of the student. We're trying to prepare them for things, again, like Mr. Ford said earlier, for jobs that don't exist, for a society we don't know about yet, to be the change makers that we want them to be and to lead in the future. When we get to the DP, this comes nicely together in the CAS project that they have to get done. It's a non-negotiable, it has to be done. A requirement of passing their DP itself. But the students here, and again, as a point in case, my grade 11s, they're the ones pushing forward. They're the ones who are instigating. My emails at the moment, my inbox is full from the grade 11s asking me, can I run this? Can I do this? Can you sign off on this so that I can make a start with that? Because they know what they want. And it's building that character again, moving forward. When it comes to writing their personal statements, the character will shine through. The university will choose those, not that have exactly the same academic profile, but the ones that are making a difference, the ones that they want in their university. So we have something that we built in Elsa. This isn't necessarily what the IB requirements are to pass CATS, talking at DP level. To pass CATS, you can very simply get through it. But we don't want our students to just get through. We want them to be in the best position to move forward into an establishment that they want to go, studying what they want to do. So we are looking for these things. Long-term engagement with activity, long-term engagement with creativity, activity, and service. At least 2, a minimum of 2. One-offs. Now we put up there a nice number of 10, that's nice and rounded, and this is over 2 years, mostly leading up until the winter break in DP2. But it's not limited to 10, and it's not limited just to service either. If they have an inkling to experience something in terms of an action, for example, if they wish to challenge themselves by entering the Hong Kong Marathon, that's a one-off, and they can then reflect upon that challenge, and they can use that taking it going forward. Same with creativity. If they want to learn a new skill, if they for all of a sudden think, do you know what, saxophone is for me, I'm going to give that a go. And they approach it through a specific lens, learning a skill. They reflect upon it. What was their journey like? And again, they can move forward from that. But all of this starts back, not just in PYP actually with their service, but NYP fosters it. We've made sure this year that what happened in SAA, what happened in Service and Action last year, doesn't disappear, but we're going to bring it into the subjects. We're going to drip feed it in there. We're looking for advocacy. We're looking for research. We're not just looking for the students to be out there volunteering all of their time, but to approach things in a different way. And yes, we want to see some one-offs, we want to see some long-term experience, but we can't be prescriptive, because each child will be attacking it, approaching it in a different way. So that's the model we're going to look forward, and again, what was happening last year should still exist, but now it should be student-led, with their passions leading the way, rather than a prescription from us. So talking upon that, the IB expects there to be 4 different types of service. When a child approaches service, it doesn't have to be from them dedicating all of their time. And let's face it, our students are pressed for time. They have so many activities already. They don't need to give up more time in order to achieve something. Again, they should be looking at what can happen already. What is happening? I've spoken to my PHE class the other day. We spoke about female advocacy. We just had the Women's World Cup. I asked a simple question. Why do we call it the Women's World Cup? Why is it not the World Cup? A huge debate amongst themselves, mostly from the boys for some reason. But that's the kind of thing that we're looking for. Researching what's happening in their community, what's happening in the school as a community, where they are in their neighborhoods, and also their wider communities. Seeing if the problem exists, and seeing if we can take that to someone to solve a problem. And of course, there's the obvious indirect and direct service. One of the best indirect services I ever saw, by the way, was a group of grade 11s reading simple reading books, English books, and recording it. And then they went and took it down into it was an elementary school, where there's a lot of language learners, and they were reading the same books as language learners, but listening to the audio description from the grade 11s in English. And I thought that was a beautiful little thing that they did there, that they didn't have to give up their extra time to come out of classes, to go into classes, but they had the support there for the language learners. And then we have sports. We all love sports. I love sports anyway. So we have sports, and we have co-curricular activity program, which isn't just obviously in sports. We do have a Monday which is compulsory. We've had that, and we're continuing to go on forwards with it, which is the 2:30 until 4 or 5, or what sometimes feels like 10 at night for some activities. Tuesday we have options though. We don't just block it or pigeonhole it into the Monday and Wednesday you must do. We try to put as much out there because we know that the students want a diverse approach to it. They know that they want to do things that are different. So if we only put it on the Monday and Wednesday, they wouldn't get that opportunity. So we give extra time. Tuesdays, Thursdays, lunch times. It's all there to ignite the fire, to start the curiosity that they can take forward. Just as an indicator of some of our sports teams, these are recent ones that we've had and also ones that we've planned this year. And sometimes this is student-led as well. So I can plan for there to be a football program running through the school for boys and girls. That's not a problem. At the start of this year, I had 2 young students came up to me and said, Mr. Baldwin, really want to swim this year. Can we compete somewhere? And I said, well, that's a possibility. It's not a problem. It's a problem in the fact that I just told ISSFHK last year that we've got no swimmers, but let me solve that problem. And from that 2, it exploded now into 5, potentially 6, who in 2 weeks' time are going to compete against all the other ISSFHK schools and potentially make their way to the championship as well. And that's the opportunity we want for the students. We want the students to come to us with a passion. There's another one up there, it's a little bit strange, Ultimate Frisbee. We've never had an Ultimate Frisbee team before, but at the back end of last year, a group of young students came to me and said, we really loved that Ultimate Frisbee unit that you did. We didn't like the assessment, but we liked the unit. Can we please play next year in the league and see what that's like? And I said, yes. It's another thing that we need to get done. It's a big headache because Ultimate Frisbee courts aren't very common in Hong Kong, but we'll try and solve that problem. And that's, again, another example of what we want the students to do. This is what I'm passionate about. This is what we can try. Can we solve that problem? I think I'm almost done. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin. I do want to commend Mr. Baldwin, who did, as he mentioned, come in mid-year and just didn't know what was flying in any shape or form. And on top of all that, he had to be involved in the educational visits, as he explained. And he's now expanded our girls' football team. Can I say girls? Our girls' football team is just so excited and exciting. And now adding the swimming, he's just never saying no, which makes his life difficult, but makes ours very exciting. Okay, critical communication and understanding, ladies and gentlemen, that if you want to know what your child's doing, you've got to be able to get on to ManageBack, and understanding that all homeworks and all work that goes on in class goes on to ManageBack. So, Mr. Donnelly and Mr. Ong.
All right, good morning, everybody. Well done, almost at the end. I'm here to talk to you about the exciting thing of ManageBack. Just a show of hands, who has logged in or who has actually used the app or the website-based one? Fantastic, makes my life easier. All right, so my name is Mika Donnelly. I'm the design program director here. So I've also been given the duty to handle the technology systems of the school. So ManageBack falling under that purview. And I'm here just to give you a bit of a rundown of what ManageBack is, how to use it, and the operation of it throughout the year. So just formality, you should have been sent an email. If you have not been sent an email with your sign-in details, please do contact myself or Ken at the back there, and we'll get you another one, because that does expire and you do need to have it fresh into the system. So from your side, ManageBack is an extensive tool. It can be really useful in many, many ways. But as a parent, I think the basics that everybody wants to know is the attendance and the academics and report sections of ManageBack. So obviously when you go into the website or the app, it does have an app also, you'll log in, and on the left-hand side column, you'll have a couple options, the academics and reports being one. So if you do look at on the website looks like this. The left-hand side with all the options as a parent, it is a bit slimmed down, and yours is different compared to the students' ones, but they are similar in terms of terminology, so they have the same sort of terms. If you look under the academics tab, you will be able to see all the academic process of your child, including past report cards, the plans for the years. So it is very much teacher-led. So as soon as the teacher puts up tasks, they will start showing up. Some teachers like to plan all the way through the term. Some like to do it week by week. It just depends on that. We don't have a policy of it, but obviously all work will be on ManageBack. Any task, any assignment that is needing submission will be on there, full stop. That includes the formative and the summative tasks. I'm sure your children will let you know what those are. And then as these are submitted, you can see whether they are submitted on time, a bit late, or way past deadline, or if they've been given extension. You'll see all the resources, the outlines to links, anything that is pertaining to that topic or the task or the unit, including the IB terminologies that have been mentioned earlier by Mr. Darrell and Mr. Ford. All that information is in there, so it's actually quite useful if you do want to learn a little bit more about what they are learning. And obviously, as you go through, you can see more information populated when you click. If you do have multiple children at the school, you can switch between profiles. So the top left-hand side on the menu, you'll see the child's name there, and there will be a little drop-down menu with different names of the students that you have been assigned to. If you do not see your child's name there, please do let us know. Normally it's just something that has to be assigned as a parent, or we have maybe slightly different or captured your information slightly wrong. It's not because we forgot about you, right? So please do let us know if you don't see anything or if something is missing. Then as you go down to the reports, which is under the attendance section, the reports will always be populated on here. You can view them online, and you can also download them, and they should always be there from previous academic history. The attendance tab is also something very important because we are trying to make sure students are taking responsibility and are being held accountable for saying that they are on time, but they might just kind of have slow feet and not find their way to the classroom. So please do check on this, and you can see every single day what classes they have, and you'll see whether they are present, late, or if there is some sort of reason that they are absent, that is marked down too. So you can always check and reference what your child is saying. All right, like I said, there is an app version of ManageBack. A lot of you probably will be using it on your phone, and that's totally fine. All the options are there, as you can see it on the website, but sometimes viewing some of the content may be a little bit difficult. So if you are looking at reports or something that is more extensive, I would suggest looking at it on a computer. All right, and if you are interested, there is the ManageBack manual. There's a lot of resources on ManageBack itself too, so please don't be shy to use the help button. They have put a lot of effort to try and make this user-friendly and, of course, useful, not just like another thing. I'm sure you have a lot of information today, but remember this is a tool, it's not just a data sheet. Okay, so make sure you use it as a tool to help, because as soon as we have more communication from you, we can communicate better through all the other academic possibilities. All right, thank you very much. I'll hand over to Mr. Arnold.
Good morning, everyone. We get a lot of information this morning, and I know you've been given a lot of information in the past week and a half. The school communicates with you in many ways, and the app is one way that we get information out to you. It's synonymous with our parent portal, so it's a mobile way to access things like news, like events like this morning, a calendar of events coming up, forms, which Ms. Friedman and Rochelle mentioned, the homeschool agreement, which is very important. I'll just segue a little bit into that because if you've been a parent at the school before, we used to produce a school directory with student and parent information. I'll just let you contact each other. This year we're bringing it back, and the homeschool agreement has a consent check that you need to let us know if you're willing to be part of the student directory or not. So, if you have not been receiving emails, get in touch with us so we can update your email contact information. If you're not able to log in to the parent portal /app, again, different from the ManageBack app, get in touch with us, we'll sort you out. As a parent at the school, I know there's always, it seems like a lot of information, but if we had to choose between over-informing you and under-informing you, we're always going to opt with the former. So if you have any questions, I'll be around at the back if you're having problems with your login. Otherwise, check your phones. There's WhatsApp groups this year for the high school, which is just another way to get in touch. So yeah, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed the morning. Send it back to Mr. Friedman.
Thank you, Al. I'm going to round off with a few comments. First of all, I think the app is amazing. My frustration levels reach ridiculous levels when I know that an email has been sent, it's been on the app, it's on the calendar, and now it's on the WhatsApp with parents, and then I get a phone call or a message, or parents don't know, nobody knows. So I just want to relate to something which is actually going to be my board Devar Torah, my little biblical message, because we have our first board meeting of the year tonight, and which was the message I gave the children on the first day. Our parashah, the section of the Bible that was read in synagogue actually 2 weeks ago, was Ra'eh. And Ra'eh means see. I'm not going to go into details of what you see in Ra'eh because of time, but Ra'eh means see. So my plea to you is never mind look, but please actually see the communications we're sending out, because we're sending out more and more in more different ways, because we keep getting the feedback that people don't know. And whilst we're constantly refining the content of our communication and our systems and extending them, there is a high level of frustration on our end that we've actually told people, and I'm sure it's probably none of the people who are here today, but people are actually not seeing. So critical for us not just to look, but to see the content. The second message I want to say to you is that the IB really combines with the ethics and the underpinning philosophy of Judaism in talking about the whole child. I always find it interesting, we haven't talked about AI this morning, ChatGTP, and the challenges students are facing and schools are facing on ensuring that we incorporate and embrace those new problems and issues so that children learn how to use them. And already our grade 5s have been busy. You can hear from Ms. Levy, they've been busy with AI, and that was sent out if you read your app the other day. But what my message is that the world, yes, is this new world, etc., etc., etc. But actually, there's a lot of stuff that we have to remember now. There's a guy called, well, there was a guy called B.F. Skinner. He was an American psychologist, educational psychologist, I think about a century ago now. And he said, and you've heard, some of you have heard it before, education is what you remember and what you've learned has been forgotten. And that still holds, except even more so than ever before. And the IB, together with Judaism, teaches children for life, not just to learn facts. So thank you for your attention, thank you for your patience, and looking forward to a very, very successful year, and wishing our Jewish friends a Shana Tova U'Tuka, a happy, healthy, sweet new year. Thank you very much, everybody. Please help yourself to refreshment.